Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. So big news today. I know it's the most important thing of your entire lifetime. There is nothing more important that has happened than what has happened today. And that is Elon Musk bought Twitter. Well, in all seriousness though, folks, I know this is going to come as a shock to some of you. It may be very offensive and hard to hear this. Some of you may even need to seek professional help, get a therapist or something like that. But the truth is that Twitter's not the real world. Twitter's not real. I mean, it's just numbers in a computer program. It's not really that important. In fact, in the end, it's not going to matter at all. But for some reason today, the whole world is just all excited or all depressed because Elon Musk, a billionaire has bought a company. It's a big surprise. Like, there aren't any billionaires that own companies or media companies for some reason. And this is just I guess the first it's ever happened. But anyways, that's not what I wanted to talk about. I just thought I had to mention it. I mean, everyone else on the internet is talking about it right now. So, if everybody's jumping off a cliff, you might as well join him, is what I always say, right? Seriously, folks, there's a lot more important things going on, and a lot of this stuff that's happening in the news, whether it's being done purposely or not, it is definitely achieving a certain goal and a certain narrative, and that's distracting you. It's distracting the people. Was talking to actually my wife today, and we were talking about how is it possible that there's still so many people out there that are just completely blinded by what's going on. I think they don't get it. And it doesn't matter what side of the political aisle they fall on. Can they not see that there's just a lot of strange things happening? And with all the stuff that we're hearing about, reports on food and food shortages and more countries, shutting down exports of certain food products and shortages in other areas, and it's this huge snowball that just keeps getting bigger. How is it that people just still don't get it? They're not concerned. They think it's going to be okay. I hear that from so many people all the time, that they're telling me that, how do I get my spouse to wake up? I've been trying to show him or her all this stuff that's going on, and they just don't see it. They just tell me it's okay. Don't worry about it. This is just another little crazy little hiccup in life, and things will be back to the way they were before you know it. And I think many of us know that that's not the case. This is unprecedented. The stuff that we have seen in the last few months, and especially over the last couple of years, there is no real time in history that we can point, at least not in modern history and in American history, that we can really point to and say, yeah, see, this happened then and everything got normal again. In fact, the only times in human history that we can really go back and see some similarities in the things that are happening are basically points in history where civilizations were starting to collapse, where governments were failing or economies were collapsing. And that's really about the only way that we can kind of see what might be coming around the next corner, is by looking back at these many different instances in history, whether it's our own history or history of other peoples around the world, and see that it's becoming harder and harder to deny that we are on the brink of a collapse, that the things that are happening around us, and food is definitely a really important one. And the reason why is, because we need it. We have to have it to survive. And because of that, food has always been one of those things, those big things that kind of makes or breaks a civilization. And as we start to see our food supply dwindle, as we start to see the global food supply dwindle and the prices go up and people are really tightening down, we're seeing countries, I believe it's Indonesia, they're not exporting palm oil anymore. There's other countries that are doing the same. There's already a cooking oil shortage, and that's expected to probably grow. Ukraine is the world's largest producer of sunflower oil. which, whether you like it or not, it's used a lot in cooking, and now the palm oil. So it's just going to continue to worsen. The stuff that's happening here in the United States, it doesn't make sense. Whether it's somewhat naturally occurring events like, say, the drought, which probably isn't that natural, but we're just not going to talk about that right now, all the way to other things that are just becoming less and less possible to be natural, like the multiple food plants and processing centers and warehouses that are mysteriously being burned to the ground. All the while, the FBI is warning that there will most likely start to see cyber attacks against the farming and food industries. Well, maybe that's what all these burning buildings are cyber attacks. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but we're certainly seeing a pattern form. We're hearing that the United Kingdom is becoming more and more worried of real food shortages. It's in their news, it's in their media, and even here back home, this news article here of telling Americans that it is going to get bad, whether or not it's going to be, starvation level, famine level food shortages. We're most certainly going to see food shortages in the sense that the prices are going to be really high, and it's really going to hurt a lot of people. They say that there's already about 10% of the American population is in that area where it's difficult for them to get the food that they need. And that number's going to grow. We're going to see poverty rise in America because people are going to have to make the decisions of buying food versus buying other things, paying bills versus buying food or other items, because everything's going up. Everything it's just becoming outrageous. And we're only in the beginning of it, folks. That's the thing. So many people are still saying, yeah, but in my area, I can still get food. There's still food on my shelves. Well, that's true. And that's true for most areas. There's not anyone, at least that I'm aware of in America, that's currently starving because of food shortages and inflation. But it's just beginning, folks. And a lot of the things that we talk about on here that are warning you about, trouble in the food supply, these are things that haven't hit us yet, where farmers can't plant food, or they're planting food without fertilizer, or they're not able to plant because they don't have the fuel to plant with, or they're not able to plant or really grow anything because there's droughts, or maybe they're being told or paid to not plant at all. There's just all these things. The effects of that, they're not affecting us right now. Those are things that we see happening, but we're not going to feel the effects for many months to come. So when you say that, well, it looks bad, it sounds bad, but we're still doing okay. We're still doing okay. Just know that we're just starting, folks. This is all really just kind of starting to kick off. And the odds are greatly in the favor of, within 3, 6 to 9 months, really seriously experiencing hard times in America. Hard times that probably no one watching this channel has experienced on a wide scale, unless you've lived in another country that has gone through that. And that's why we have to prepare. That's why we build connections. That's why we make building a family and making a community and building that community like it's a family. Yesterday we had our local meeting, and there was a new couple there, and interesting, they just moved to the area and they ended up only living just a few miles from us. But we were talking, and she was asking, how is it that you're making this a success? How are you making this work? Because it's just so hard to make kind of like a prepper meeting-ish type of thing go. And many of you have told me that, and I have the same experience. I've tried this many times, and every other time it's failed. And I don't believe it's just because I have a YouTube channel. That's not really the only reason, because these people, most all of them, keep coming back, and things are starting to happen on a local level. And I told her, I said, when I wanted to start these meetings, I kind of realized that all along, all the other attempts that were failed were done incorrectly. You know, as preppers, we were trying to do a meeting based on expanding our knowledge and preparedness or developing better skills. And in doing that, we were only benefiting the individual. And so none of the people that would be coming to the meeting had any reason to really build that connection and stick with the group. And I said, this time I wanted it to be different. I didn't care about what was taught at the meeting. I didn't care about who lectured or what skills were shared. That really hasn't been that important to me, and it's still not greatly important to me at these meetings. What is important to me at these meetings is to build a family-like community of like-minded people. That's the number one thing. And so we've had a goal of encouraging entire families to come, and at times, you know, having a bunch of little kids running around, and there's a ton of toddlers, there's a lot of young families there. I don't know the amount, but yesterday there was probably at least a dozen or two, at least a dozen of children under 5 years old just kind of running around playing. And while that can be a little annoying sometimes when we're trying to do stuff, on the other hand, I think it's a beautiful thing. We're seeing families come together. We're seeing a family being built out of elderly and young people and married couples and with children and single people and people of all walks of life, of all economic background, of all ethnic background. I mean, we've had such a diverse amount of people come through our meetings, and some stay and some come when they can. And some have gone back to their areas and tried to recreate the same thing. And I think the reason why it's been successful thus far is because we focus on family and we focus on community. And we feel that once we have that community built and once we have that kind of family feel, that a lot of the other things are going to kind of fall into place. Because as a group of people, once we have a connection with each other and we've built an emotional bond where we actually really care about them on a more intimate level than just as an acquaintance, then we naturally want to protect what we have. We naturally want to help each other out because, well, they're family now. And so that's why we have been focusing on just the community family feeling aspect of the group, as opposed to the specifics about, how much training do we do and how much, lecturing and skill sharing and all that. I mean, we do that stuff, but that's not been the primary focus. And as the family community comes together more and more, we're all as a group saying, hey, we need to do some training. We need to, learn this. We need to do this. And so in that way, I think it's working better. All this stuff that's happening in the world, the food shortages, the coming even greater food shortages, the economy, this war in Russia, it's in Ukraine, it's heating up. And I think that the odds of us as Americans being involved in this more is becoming more and more likely. I know many of you keep saying, it's probably not going to happen, and you could be right. But the things that are happening just in the last few days, I think it's becoming more heated. But there's other stuff. There's the things that I talked about yesterday on here with this absolute purposeful destruction of families and of innocent childhoods, this evilness that's out there devouring our children, spiritually, intellectually, and literally at times. There's a lot of things going on, folks. And next to having a personal relationship with the Father and His Son, the only other thing here on this earth that I can think of that will really kind of put us in a safer position and in a place that we would have a greater potential to survive all these threats is by building a community of like-minded people so that we can stand together in strength and help each other. And so I know I say it all the time, and so many of you say, I just don't know if I can do that. Maybe you can't, but a lot of you can if you really try hard enough and build that connection. Because I'm telling you, folks, once the world gets over the fact that Elon Musk bought Twitter, They're going to have to get back to reality at some point. And at some point, that reality may just be when they realize they can't afford the food that they need to fill their bellies, or they can't even find it on their shelves, or there's shortages so bad that there's rationing, and they can't do the things that they're used to any longer because there's no money, or there's no supplies, or there's no food. Eventually, the reality is going to start sinking in. It has already in some places, especially in developing worlds. But eventually, it's going to start sinking in more and more here in America. And that's when we're going to start seeing more problems. And if you can start building that family, close-knit community now, the odds of you surviving this, the odds of you making it through all that we're headed into, are going to be much better if you have that connection. So folks, seriously, get out there and try to make those connections. If you need any kind of assistance or advice or promotion of meetings, I'll do the best that I can to help you out. But prepping and storage of stuff and stockpiling of stuff is really important. But I really think that one of the most important things that you can do next to, what I said up, that the relationship with the Father, is going to be your relationships with other people like you, like-minded people that you can depend on each other and help each other out. Because I do believe that we are headed into some really, really tough times as a nation and as a people. It just seems like the handwriting's on the wall, folks, and I think we're in for a rough ride. Folks, get your houses in order. Prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.